a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. And despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct. Right here from the SHR Media studios, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. You got a belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back tonight. Fluffy is going to be your bartender. It's also, it's Tuesday, March 26th, the year of our Lord 2019. That's right, Fluffy is going to be your bartender tonight, and he pours with the best of them. The lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right, which means that you can listen and chat at shrmedia.com. You can also watch the show on the Redcon 1 Media Facebook page. Go there right now, quick like a bunny. Or the SHR Media Facebook page, or the SHR Media YouTube channel. Thanks again to Big Sarge for letting me on. Redcon 1 Media. Click like. Go there right now. You can watch the show. I got to tell you this, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law, we talk about it all right here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred, the speech is free, but the booze is not. All we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight is a bifurcated show. In the first hour, we have Ken McCLENTON from TECN, the Exceptional Conservative Network. He's on for the first hour. The second hour is an SHR Media special report, which revolves around, I know you're going to be shocked to hear this, Mueller, the Mueller report, which actually reveals and confirms something that we suspected for quite some time. There was, in fact, and I submit there is currently, an active soft coup against the people, the citizens of the United States of America. We will get into that the second hour. Now, unfortunately, Ken wasn't able to have his show tonight. We're going to see if I'm going to be sufficiently lucky to get him on tonight. One ringy-dingy. Two ringy-dingies. Because sometimes it doesn't occur in the first time. Mr. Ken, are you there, sir?
Good evening, sir, and welcome. Thank you so much for having me on your program.
Well, we were commiserating probably about half hour ago, and I caught something on Facebook which indicated that, son of a bitch, your show was not on tonight. So two things came to my brain. Number one, I am sorry to hear that. And number two, I do appreciate you hanging around long enough to be on the show tonight. So,
I mean, come on. Listen, to Mark the Bloviating Zeppelin.
Yes, sir.
As we bow in thou presence, of course. What better person to spend the evening with than you?
Well, Thank you very much. And it won't be long. It'll be an hour. And as we all know, an hour goes on radio just like quick like a bunny. And it's gone. Isn't that true?
Especially the ones at the Planned Parenthood clinic. But anyway.
And you and I were saying that and I didn't say anything to this to the people in the chat room, is you had a power outage at your place.
Yes.
And my guess would be that's whether you had like big thunderstorms or something like that occurred.
No. Sometimes it blacks out here in Washington, D.C. And unfortunately, in our neighborhood, one of the drug dealers may have hit the line accidentally, and I don't want to pinpoint anyone. I just,
well, as we were saying, I want the people to know, however, that it's very important to realize that no, what didn't happen is Ken did not string a power line from his house to his neighbor's house. And then, unfortunately, his neighbor slammed the window on his power line, which was going up to the power pole directly adjacent the exceptional conservative residence there in D.C.
Exactly.
And that's not what happened. And welcome to...
No, that's not... and those individuals who do that kind of thing are not very good neighbors. If you're a real neighbor, you make certain that your neighbor is able to take your cable, take your electric.
Yeah.
And if you're a real neighbor, go all the way with it with the plumbing. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a real neighbor.
Listen, and if you have hard water, your water softener, that should be up for grabs. Your internet, certainly your internet. I mean, your neighbor needs your password.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. It says password. Doesn't that mean everyone should have it?
Exactly. That's why it's public. Pornhub.com or whatever it is, I tend to go to plasticsheetsandwessonoil.com. That's a URL it's pretty sturdy. It's usually up most of the time. See what I did there? And welcome in.
I must tell you, whatever you do, don't go to the petroleumjelly.com site. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. Not just that.
No, you won't like what you get. So,
I hear people are bending over backwards to get there, but once they are there, boys.
Well, it is an experience unto itself. The only thing is they advise bringing Smith & Wesson handcuffs instead. I really don't know what that's about.
Don't know at all.
Folks, we have the unique pleasure of speaking to Ken McCLENTON, who is the exceptional conservative and has been so for quite some time. And the reason I wanted to see if I could get you here tonight, but we've spoken before. Here's the thing. Ken has a show of his own. And Ken doesn't need to do this stuff because he's got enough promotions and stuff going on. So when he's on, because 99% of the time he doesn't go on other people's shows, and so when he does, and he comes on mine, I appreciate it because that's not his gig. That's not what he does. You go on his show. He doesn't go on your show, mostly because he's busy doing his own show. So you can see how that works out.
And running my own television network.
And running his own television network. And the other thing is I have to thank everybody that's from the East Coast. I always have to thank up front for, hey, it's 8:10 here on the West Coast. That means it's 11:10 on the East Coast where you are right now, and essentially you would have already wrapped up your show about 10 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. So,
exactly.
By the way, thanks for Alaskan being in chat, Andy Wood being in chat, and thanks for Mike being in chat. Appreciate it. So, folks, I wanted to get Ken on here, and I want to illustrate how important it is. I've had Ken on before, but because I'm on the Redcon One Media, it's a new network, and I want to make sure that I introduce Ken to everybody there. Nice big network. Big Sarge, thanks again for allowing me there. And then maybe Ken can pick up some listeners here. Big Sarge can pick up some listeners, because if there's one thing that I've found out in the years since I've met Ken is what a great guy, what a great story, what a life story. Now, before we get into anything more, the first thing I want to make sure that we do is that I acknowledge your social media. So please tell folks, where can you be found on social media, on your website, and then also please tell people about your show and where that can be seen, please.
Oh, well, first and foremost, thank you, and congratulations to Webcom, because you have probably one of the greatest writers and greatest orators of conservative thought in America on your network. So congratulations to you all. Not enough kudos would give justice to the great gift of having Vince Deppie on your television network and on your radio network as well. I happen to be the president and CEO of TECN-TV out of Washington, D.C. That is the Exceptional Conservative Network TV, or better known to others who listen to Pastor Greg Young, it is the Exceptional Christian Network TV. You can find us at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. And it's written long because it's intended for people who really want to be there. The exceptionalconservativeshow.com, and you can go there and listen to all of the great people who are on our network. Michael Vasquez, Greg Young, Dr. Jane Ruby will be joining us next week on our network. So we're growing by leaps and bounds. Randy and April from Italy, Pastor Dave from East Africa.
Wow.
So we have West Africa, not to be confused with East Africa, West Africa. So we have a growing network, and we're really, really appreciative of the fact that people are actually tuning in and listening. They can find me on Facebook when I'm not in prison at Kenneth McCLENTON, or you go there for American Conservative Nation News or the Exceptional Conservative Network or TECN-TV. You can find us anywhere on Facebook. On Twitter, the same way you can find me at Mr. Exceptional, or at Gab, you can find me as Mr. Exceptional as well. But whatever you do, when you do find me, stay with me, because I love having guests. I love having family, and most importantly, I love being around Vince Deppie. He's a tremendous asset to the conservative movement, and certainly an asset to any broadcasting network out there.
Well, thank you very much. See, I knew that $20 was well spent. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
But you misread the invoice. It was $200.
Oh. Okay. So I'm what you're saying is I'm $180 light. Then.
You're on our payment plan.
Yeah, can I go to the monthly payment plan, $20 a month? I think I can handle the strokes on that one. Folks, also, if you're on Twitter, you can follow Ken at Ken McCLENTON, lowercase, at Ken McCLENTON, McClenton, and also on TECN-TV, television station. And also, I noticed that you have your own website, and this has really been spiffed up, theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. And whoever is handling your web stuff, darn, mister, they're doing a really nice job. That looks really, really nice.
You know what I found about business success? This is the one thing I found about business success, is you have to be willing to fire the person who's in charge of crap. And so that's exactly what I did. I went out of my way to fire the person who's responsible for the crap that I used to put together, and that was me. So if you want to be successful in business, be honest with yourself. If you know you present crap to the world, fire yourself and hire someone who does. So we got a great team of people that work with me. Deborah Frazier, my chief financial officer, Bonnie Williams, the producer for my show, Dr. Jane Ruby, who is my network advisor. And so they're helping me turn my network around, and I hope that you like what you see. Also, whatever you do, if you miss any of the big interviews that I have on my show, you can go to our YouTube channel, the Exceptional Conservative Network channel, and you can watch some of the great interviews that we have there.
Very important thing to point out. I want to go into your background a little bit, but before that, I want to go into how you and I met. Not so terribly long ago.
You took my job.
I don't know if I could say exactly that.
Yeah, I used to carry Sean and Clint's bags and everything.
Oh, that's okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I get it. Now I see what you're doing there. Okay. So, folks, in 2016, I retired after 41 years in law enforcement, and I had been in radio in the 70s, originally at KFBK before a certain little fuzzball got there. And then I went to college and started pushing around cop cars and that kind of stuff. I retired in 2016, and that was the first year. 2016? Yeah, that's right. 2016 was the first year that Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint hijacked me and forced me to drive my Kraut car, the back of it packed with radio equipment, while they flew in sumptuous comfort on Southwest. No, Mr. Stupid here had to drive in the 110-degree heat down I-5 in California with a K, and then go east over to Las Vegas, and they were already, having pedicures and manicures, and women were fanning them and whatnot. And so I had to, just like you, Ken, I had to carry the bags in. But it all was okay, because that was when I first met you in Las Vegas at Freedom Fest in 2016. Now, Freedom Fest in Las Vegas, for the people that don't know, is an annual libertarian get-together for free-thinking people. And SHR Media has historically had a presence there, and that was the first time that I met Ken. So basically, we did iterations of our own show. In 2016, I did not yet have my own radio show. It wasn't until January 2017 that I got my own radio show. So my job was to clean the bathrooms and dust up after Sackhead Sean and Clint, and get them fresh drinks. I had to make sure that they always had fresh drinks. And then I met Ken, and I had a great time. We all did our shows. I didn't have a show to do, so Ken was nice enough to let me on his show. And I determined that Ken, I finally figured out that he lives in Washington. Oh, I met Mrs. Biggs. I met Ken's wife, a beautiful, gracious lady, absolutely gorgeous, and ever so kind. And it was through meeting Ken, and I told him that I didn't have my own show yet. But Ken was kind enough to let me Bigfoot his show on Monday nights at about 7 o'clock my time and about 10 o'clock your time in the East. And that was very kind. I really appreciated that. It allowed me to get my feet wet in radio again. And then since that time, pretty much every Monday, Ken has continued to allow me to be on the show. That got me back into radio. That got me thinking again about doing radio. That basically told me I could do radio again. I had the ability to do that. And so I want to always publicly acknowledge Ken McCLENTON for a couple of things. Number one, I met you, great guy. Folks, when you hear his life story and what he is committed to do, and then I met his wife, I met him, and he was kind enough to let me on his air when he certainly didn't need to by any stretch of the imagination. He has been an excellent and a continuing success in radio and now on television at TECN. But I need to acknowledge the past, and that is the kindness that you showed me when I appeared at Freedom Fest. You had no damn idea who I was. I'm just this obese, ancient, fat guy with a big beard and long hair. And you treated me exquisitely, and I will never forget that. And I thank you for the opportunity from the bottom of my heart to have been on your show from essentially 2016 on. And I have to acknowledge that. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you, Ken.
Listen, the honor is all mine. When I speak about you, after you pay me, when I speak about you, in all sincerity, from the moment I met you, I knew that you had whatever it took, not only to be on television, but also to be in radio. You have a great, great sense of not only the timing, but the sensibility of knowing when to switch on and switch off. You have a tremendous sense of humor, and you are solidly in depth in fiction and in nonfiction. When we say fiction, we refer to Democrats, nonfiction, Republicans.
Right.
And
right,
so,
right. Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
But you have a great depth of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that just pervades the atmosphere wherever you're at. What I found intolerable about meeting you the first time is that you took away my job as the person who carried the bags and brought the drinks and everything. And I was really, 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 really offended by all of that and everything. So I could no longer serve Clint and Sean the way they were supposed to be served. And you took that. And so I was so upset with you. But
on the other hand, it lent itself to an entirely different future for you from radio and into television where you are today.
So my liberator was not Lincoln; it was Giuseppe.
Although Sackheads Clint has let me know in no uncertain terms that he fervently believes that I met Lincoln many, many years ago.
And you played golf with Grant.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. No, it's true. He says somewhere in my closet I still have one of those real tall hats. And I just haven't brought it in yet.
But you know the great thing about playing golf with Grant is that tee time was always on the 19th green.
Yeah. He was not really what you would call a teetotaler at all. So he and I do share one thing in common, at least.
And what's that?
We've been known to have a drink now and then, not with any great frequency, mind you. Just like at the end of all my shows. Let's go into the background, though. Hey, subtle? Was that subtle? Huh? Was that okay?
That was subtle.
Okay.
That was subtle. See,
Thank you.
those are the sensibilities of anchorship that you have that very few people have.
Right. Where was it?
Some guy 3 hours from now will pick up and say, "Wait a minute."
And then another guy will say, "Where do white women at?" And I pretty much say, "I just don't know. They're certainly not in the studio. I can tell you that right now. They are not in the studio. They're not in my studio. I suspect they may not be in your studio. I just don't know." You're in D.C. right now, and you've been in D.C. for a number of years. Where did you grow up?
My entire life.
Oh, your entire life? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a native Washingtonian.
Okay, so you grew up there. Okay, got it.
And I spent my summers in West Point, Mississippi. I'm a Southern gentleman at heart, despite what my wife says. I schooled at some of the better private Catholic schools in D.C.
Okay.
I went on to college, spent some time at UDC, some time at Howard University, and then spent some more money at Potomac College in Washington, D.C. I studied economics. I studied psychology. I had my English associate's degree in like a year and a half for my time at UDC. But one of the problems why I didn't finish college in like 3 years, because I was on the pace of doing it in 3 years, is that I had this great love for radio. And I actually spent more time in the radio studio than I did ever in the classroom. Although I didn't really need to, because I would, just go in and just recite whatever someone was talking about, just passing. So, but I had a great affinity for radio. So I went in and I became the news engineer, a news editor for a radio program. And they said, Ken, you're very good at doing the news. Why don't you come up with your own show? And so my own show was a political show in my freshman year of school. And it was so good. What I found out as I was skipping class, my professor would tell me as I was going up the elevator at UDC, yeah, you had a great show today. It was good information right there, man. I hope you're ready for the exam. And at that point, I would wave to him as he was getting off, and I would go back down. I'm not ready for it. But I spent a lot of years in terms of writing and basically entertainment, that kind of thing. It was a long time between college and then getting back into this particular industry. And I was invited onto a friend's show. He was a part of the American Conservative Party, and they had a program that they created called AC Nation News.
Okay.
And they invited me to come on the program, and they said, Ken, we're just going to have you come on for a segment, and, you could just talk for a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. I don't really want to. Okay, I'll do it. Lo and behold, I was invited back for 3 consecutive weeks. And eventually it got to a point where the host went to break, and the host said, you're talking more than me. You need your own show.
Hey, perfect. That's a great way to get into it.
That's a great way. So on February 28, 2011, I went on their network with my own show. It was supposed to start just one Monday a week. I would just do one show. My first show, my guest who swore to me that afternoon, I will be there. I will text. He was running for Texas Commission.
Oh God!
I will.
God!
Right. Don't worry about it. As sure as I'm black, I will be there.
Jeez.
And now I'm questioning his blackness, but he didn't show up.
Of course.
So I got 60 minutes to go, and at that point, I just let myself go, and I said, this show is going to be eternally dedicated to God. I am going to do whatever is in the best interest of this country. And I went through a whole soliloquy of 60 minutes, because I didn't have commercials back then. So I spoke 60 consecutive minutes, and they finally took me off the air. And they say, Ken, did you write all that thing down? I mean, what you were talking, I was like, no, that was just coming right off my head. They said, wow, that's great. You need to keep that up. So eventually we went from one show a week to doing 3 shows a week to eventually doing 5 shows a week over the years. And so that's where we are today. I've also started doing a program called the American Conservative Exploration of the Inspired Word of God, Bible study. It's not trying to show people that I'm holier than thou or that I'm more scholarly than others, but it's actually a pursuit of the truth and looking at the Bible in the not only the Hebrew and the Greek, but also the interpretation of that because I'm an originalist when it comes to biblical studies as well. So I'm on 6 days a week now. I run my own network, television network, and it is the greatest joy. If I had to give up sex, I would for doing what I do. But I don't have to because all the ladies are outside my studio just waiting for me to finish.
And of course, I get it. I see what you did there. Finish in more ways than one. Okay, I get that. Yeah. Okay, folks, we are talking to Ken McCLENTON of TECN, the Exceptional Conservative Network. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to Ken about his religion, what informs him, and how he got into politics. And I'm going to relate very briefly my very, very, very first shift in radio. And from there, it'll even get more interesting because that's just the nature of Ken's life. Folks, you're listening to Ken McCLENTON. He's here for the first hour of TECN, the Exceptional Conservative Network, a great TV station that you must and should see. I'm the Bloviating Zeppelin, and you're listening to me live and direct right here in the SHR Media studios at the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Don't go anywhere. Pretty please come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to myself. I am BZ, the Bloviating Zeppelin. And this is the Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Welcome back. You can follow me on Twitter at BZEP, BZEP. Like me and follow me on my Facebook page, Bloviating Zeppelin. Please follow me on the SHR Media Facebook page. Subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Click notifications. Give our videos a thumbs up. Great hosts, great videos, great shows. I'm also on the Redcon One Media also, so please click like, friend, and follow me there as well. I'm trying to get myself out of the category of the best late-night conservatarian talk show you've never heard of. So I said, like I said last week, I want to make my dogs at home. I want to make Clyde the Bobcat and Demi the Studio Cat finally proud of BZ. Tonight, folks, we have the pleasure of speaking to Ken McCLENTON of the Exceptional Conservative Show and the Exceptional Conservative Network. Ken, I greatly appreciate the time that you are taking to be with us here tonight.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Listen, and you can always tune in and listen to Biff on Monday nights at 10:20 p.m. on my show, the Exceptional Conservative Show, where he is so much better than he is on this show. That's how great he is. He saves his best for being on my show. He upstages me, and then I have to spend the rest of the night trying to figure out what I'm going to do to try to catch that. He is just a tremendous asset. I really love you, man.
Thank you very much.
Also, I want to say one quick thing. I want to say this real quick.
Sure.
Mary Brockman is my bouncer in chief. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed from our program.
Oh.
There you go. Love you, Mary.
Wow. Also in chat, I got to say welcome to guest 7062, one viewer, Mary Brockman, the Alaskan, Dave Milner, and a couple of other folks that have leaked into the chat room itself. I got to tell you this, Ken, and I suspect that by now you already know. Now, Ken, when he promos the show on Mondays, I'll be in there, and BZ will be there Ken's got a topic. And Ken, I'm sure, has already sussed this out. Is my job, essentially, on Ken's show is to make sure... What? You already know? Are you trying to say you already know what I'm going to say?
I know what you're going to say.
Okay. Well, my job on Ken's show is basically to make sure that I don't address anything that has to do with the topic that he's chosen for me that night. And I know inherently Ken intuits that. He knows that that's my job, and he's kind enough to roll with me about it. In other words, he'll try to get me back on track a little bit, and I'll take the ball and I'll roll in some other kind of crazy-ass direction. But the bottom line is, we both have a good time doing it.
Yes, we did. And listen, you did it to me once, I swear, it was like 18 minutes into your interview. We had only like 2 minutes left. And I was like, nah, we're not going to get out of here without you doing one question. And you even turned that thing around.
Yeah.
Be careful when you have
I know.
BZ.
That's true. It can occasionally be a big slap down where, okay, you really want to do this to me, BZ? All right. Okay. All right. I got it. Let's see how you like this thing. Let's see how you like this. How do you like me now, BZ?
I do want to say this. Sean and Clint came onto my show once, and I was very, distinguished with them, asking them general questions. And they were like, wait a minute. You come on our program, and you sound like you haven't had your medicine yet. You get on my program, you act like this. It's the same way. I think it's just the nature of our business this way.
It is. We pull each other's pigtails. We try to dunk them. We try to dunk them a little bit in the inkwell. That really dates me right there. I know Ken knows what I'm talking about. But it's all good, clean fun. It's all good, clean fun.
Yeah, exactly. It is. If you can't screw up somebody else's show, why have your own?
Exactly, which is one of the reasons. Thank you. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons that I wanted you here tonight, and for you to also tell everybody, because you were talking about being in radio and that you were doing politics, and that leads me to one of my primary questions: is how did you get into politics? Were you a political guy in the first place, or was there any particular event that occurred, or that you experienced, or you saw, and all of a sudden a little light went on? Bing! Okay, I'm doing politics.
Well, BZ, I like to break it down for you very simultaneously.
Okay.
Just want to make it certain for you to understand it to the proportion in which I'm going to be speaking to. I realized at birth that I was conservative. When the the doctor slapped me on my butt, and I instantaneously turned around and said, "That's an invasion of my First Amendment right."
It is.
No, I from birth, really, I was a conservative. While everyone else was taking their class picture in first grade with a dashiki on, I had on my blazer with emblem and slacks, and a gold necktie to go with my gold shirt. That was me. I was Carlton before Carlton was born.
You were Carlton before Carlton was cool.
Exactly. I was he. And so I was a young black conservative, and I knew that I was in trouble with my family when I would sit around in the living room, which was like a smoking stack. In those days, people did smoke inside the house.
Oh, yeah.
And you would see the smoke when you open the door, and it's like greet you at the front door. So I would sit there, and I was the only person in the room defending Richard M. Nixon. I was the only one.
Oh, boy.
And I was the one saying that we had, and I was like 6 years old at the time. I was like, he has a great idea of what to do with China in terms of opening up China to capitalism.
Yep.
And I'm sitting, and people are like, to my father, is he real? Is this real?
Did this child come from my loins?
And so I have always been a Christian at birth as well. I was made in the image of God, and I prefer to refer to myself like that now. Thank God my wife isn't listening. But I've always been a Christian. I've always been a conservative. I've always had very orthodox views, which were innately different from members of my immediate family and others in my community. Being born in Washington, D.C., where you're given a voter ID card at birth that says D on it.
Yeah.
It's quite revolutionary for someone to come out and say, well, I wouldn't dare vote for anyone, Mondale or anyone else, the first time around, unless they were Ronald Reagan. And so I voted for Ronald Reagan. I wrote in the school newspaper the need to vote as a conservative, which I tell you, if you really want to get along with your friends at the Catholic school, no, don't do that. Don't write about your political views.
No.
But I was all the way straight up conservative, and so one of the great things I learned in life is that people will respect you even if they have a different opinion from you, if you remain coarse and strong and strident in your own viewpoint.
Yep.
I wouldn't back down in any debate, and often I won debates. And in fact, one of the people that I used to debate now comes on my show on Thursday night, Michael Brown. He's a loyal progressive, an Obamanite to the nth degree. But when you listen to him on my program, and Mary can vouch for me in the chat room, I debate him as if I were in high school, and I tear him up every time he comes on my program. And eventually, recently, he started agreeing with me on stuff, and I'm like, whoa, you're going to mess up the ratings.
Whoa, what's going What? What's going on here?
Oh, man. And so I as a Christian, and people have to understand that I am not Jesus. I never say that I am Jesus, but I do follow Christ. And my pursuit of Him, I have learned in the Scriptures that there is nothing there that says that I need a civil right to tell me that I'm equal to any man based on color, because my natural rights tell me that I'm equal to every man because they were created in the image of God. So where I begin in my respect for other men is where they begin in their respect for God. So I have a very harsh tone to Democrats who have the audacity to the city of brotherly love, boo God, boo Jerusalem, boo Israel. I have a very difficult time with individuals telling me that I am evil and despotic because I want to own a handgun or a shotgun, and yet they believe in killing babies after they've been born, and even will come on the air as a governor and explain to you the reasonings as to why you should. So I have very strong views and values, and I have on my website the 5 keys to winning back urban America. They're very simple. Christ first, conservatism, capitalism, constitutionalism, or rule of law, and individual sovereignty. If Republicans want to win back urban America, go back with those 5 principles, and you will win urban America over. And congratulations to Donald Trump, because he's shown exactly how you should deal with Democrat socialism. They're not Democrats anymore; they're socialist tyrannists.
No,
he's shown them.
They
face them down.
They're under the guise. They're not even Democrats anymore. And when they advocate openly for Democrat socialism, I'm confident now. It's like listening to people, listening to Muslims tell you what they're going to do. After a few explosions, you really have to take them at their word. It's the Democrats after a few elections and the attempted destruction of the United States. Pretty soon you have to take them at their word and understand that they really do mean what they say. And I want to repeat those 5 keys to winning, because Ken is very, very correct when he says the 5 keys are Christianity, conservatism, capitalism, constitutionalism, or the rule of law, and individual sovereignty. That's how we keep ourselves free. That's how we keep the liberties in the United States of America. I'm torn. We've got about 12 minutes left. I'm torn between going on one topic or hitting another. There was a situation that occurred in your life that I think at this point I'm going to forego. And I think instead of that, I found an article that I'd like you to comment on. It's from Raynard Jackson. And it came out, let's see, what is today? Tuesday. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's almost Wednesday where you are.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it came out on Monday. That was the marginalization of blacks by the Democrat. I call it they're socialist tyrannists at the juncture.
Yeah.
But I let me just quickly go to the issue I think that you're speaking to, and that was almost 4 years ago when my daughter, Shanice Milton, who was a 27-year-old reporter, coming home from covering a story on Capitol Hill, was exiting one bus across the street to the last bus coming home in Southeast D.C. She was accosted by 2 gang members, and one held her as a human shield for the bullet that was coming directly for him. And when it pierced her heart, he threw her to the ground, and they all dispersed, 16 individuals who to this day have never been arrested.
Yes.
And unfortunately, she died at the scene. It was on that dark night, after a show that I was doing, that I was told by police detectives, from that point on, we became great advocates for unresolved homicides, missing persons, teen suicides, and child abuse. But one of the things that came out of that motivation was 5 days after the killing of our daughter by whoever those gang members are, and someday I will find you, I swear I will. You shall pay your price here on earth, and God will handle everything else hereafter. The mayor came to our home, who is a devout lesbian Democrat, who has a great deal of anger and hostility towards me because I'm the exact opposite. So it was a struggle for her, I could imagine, because she took a long while to even get in contact with us. And so she sat in our living room and she looked my wife in the eye because she wouldn't look at me at all. And she said, "We swear we will do everything that we can do to solve this case." I can't make it to her funeral this weekend because we have to go to the funeral of Joe Biden's son. But I hope that you understand that our hearts are with you. And whatever you need, just let us know. And we send our condolences on behalf of the city of Washington. Now, I'm telling you this. I never told anyone else on any other program, so I'm telling you this as it happened. And she got up, she looked at me, and she turned, and she walked out. Now, I went up the stairs to prepare for my show because I thought it was just a waste of time for her being here. And so I was actually granted the reward for the knowledge that I had. I happened to go upstairs and take a look at the list of homicides that were open. And Shadisa's homicide wasn't open on that night. And so I thought it was maybe a computer error or whatever, so I rebooted or whatever and did it again. And no, she wasn't there. But I looked under the area called closed cases. 5 days after she was shot and killed, my daughter, 1 hour after having the mayor put on her performance at our home, she was listed as a cold case. It was at that point that I went ballistic on my own program. And I sent that program all over the city. And I swore at that particular point I would fight every single night and day so that no parent would have to go through what we went through. And certainly there is nothing great and special about us, but there was something great and special about that little girl, Shanice, who could not follow in her father's footsteps as a conservative journalist because she would never get a job in Washington, D.C. But she told all the truths. She gave the greatest writing. She did over 300 articles for a paper, a community newspaper, in a little over a year and a half. She was on fire, and she was ready to be promoted, taken out to go to a major newspaper when she was cut down. And I swore I would never let anyone else have to go through that. So every Friday night on our program, after we open Park Closed Case, our own program that works with individuals and their families, on every Friday night, we do a program, a show, because one of the complaints that we heard was blacks, you don't hear about blacks in unresolved homicides or missing persons. If my 6-year-old child was a little white girl, you would hear nothing about them. They'd be all over the news. So I made a commitment at that point that my network would do every Friday night a commitment to bringing attention to unresolved homicides, and particularly to certain communities that would not have media attention. And it has caught on with gangbusters at this point. And in fact, Friday night, we will have the daughter of a young man who was killed some 40-some-odd years ago on our program. She's demanding that justice be served. Her name is Angel Hammond. She's out of South Carolina. Her father was killed back in the there is belief that they know who did it, but they won't close the case in terms of they won't open the case to close it on the person who did it. So we're going to bring national attention to that story on Friday night, and hopefully big things will come from that. But my hope and aspirations are that TECN-TV will be known as a nation, as a television station that was committed to bringing hope and inspiration and closure to families who suffer just.
I was hesitant to mention this, and obviously I had the story back up because I wasn't sure if you wanted to go there or not, because I will respect where you do want to travel on the show. But I was also prepared, just in case you were going to go there, with a statistic that I think proves a great deal and illustrates most precisely who you are as an individual, who you are as a man, and who you are as a family. I've known 4 families personally who encountered situations like this where their children were either lost and never found again. That was one of 4 that I know personally. 3 were where their children died before they do by violence. 2 were by violence. 1 was in an accident. All 4 of those individuals divorced. Their family was scattered to the wind. And the statistic that I'd like to tell everybody, and I learned a great deal about that, is that after the death of a child in a family, roughly 60 to 70% or more of the families dissolve after a critical incident like that. The reason I bring this up is to illustrate how strong a man Ken McCLENTON is, and how his conviction, his past, his God, and his circumstances inform him then and now. Ken still has a family. Ken has a wife. They are together. Ken has a vision. Ken has a commitment to conservatism. And one of the things that I wanted to get across tonight, if nothing else, is there will be a time for you and I to get together and discuss all sorts of political incidents and whatnot. But I wanted everybody, specifically those just listening at Redcon tonight, to understand the man, Ken McCLENTON, and his background, because in my estimation, that is critical to understanding what you do, and more importantly, why you do it. That is why I wanted to have you here tonight, Ken.
I love you, man. I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come on the air and talk with you. I'm going to tell you, Redcon has a tremendous asset in you. You've been a great friend to me, and you are one of the most tremendous people I have ever met. And I thank God for giving me the opportunity to talk with you and your listening audience. And I pray even greater success for you, because you would do it. And what you can do for America, I don't think anybody else on radio and television can do. And I thank God for you, brother.
Thank you very much, my brother. And when I say that, I mean it sincerely, and I think you know that as well. Before we go, I want you to again tell people where you can be found on social media, and more importantly, if they want to watch your show, where do they go and on what time?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that I run my house. You know what I'm saying? That's why my women don't leave me. You know what I'm saying? and Mary, don't go back tomorrow, Mary, and go into that chat room and tell her I said that, okay? But first and foremost, I thank God for this opportunity. I thank my wife, Mrs. Biggs, and everybody else who's part of the TECN-TV family. You can easily find me. All you need to do is type in the exceptionalconservativeshow.com, exceptionalconservativeshow.com. Find me on Facebook at Ken McCLENTON. Wherever you wish to find me, you can find me. And I hope that you're there tomorrow night. I'll be on the air at 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be talking about economic liberty with someone from the Pacific Legal Foundation tomorrow night. Anastasia Bowden actually will be on the line with us. So stay tuned and stay with us. We really appreciate this opportunity, brother.
Thank you ever so kindly. Ken McCLENTON. He is the exceptional conservative of TECN. Ken, thank you ever so kindly for your time. Folks, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this, and there'll be a little bit of an SHR special report. Please don't go anywhere.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes the show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
was the counterintelligence.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back for the second hour. That was Ken McCLENTON in the first hour. Thanks ever so kindly to Ken for being here tonight and for staying up late. It is now 5-6 minutes after the witching hour on the East Coast. We'll have Ken back. I wanted to make sure that the people who have never heard of Ken before understand the man himself and his circumstances, where he came from, and what he does. We'll get into issues later, but I want folks, when Ken comes back, to understand this is his background. This is his history. This has what created Ken today. An absolutely great guy, and you need to watch his show. You need to listen to his show and watch his show simultaneously. This is going to take the rest of the first hour, and I may actually end up going into overtime. I'm not quite sure, because there's so much essential information that people need to know. And so, without ado, we'll start right here.
This is an SHR Media Network special report.
The special report tonight is about the Mueller report, and what it does is essentially this. It confirms that a soft coup was definitely made against America and against Trump. And to a great degree, it was occurring, and I believe that it is still occurring. There are some things that have been exposed along the way, but it's still happening right now. I said this since late 2016, all through 2017 and 2018, with the March 2019 Mueller report now confirming. That was on Sunday, and then people began to report it on Monday. The confirmation is this: what we experienced in America, instigated by the Barack Hussein Obama 44 administration, the DNC, Hillary Clinton and her campaign, the DOJ and the FBI, plus other abetting actors like John McCain and many, many others, a host of many others, was a soft coup against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president of the United States, Donald John Trump. Make no mistake, this was nothing more than a soft coup. This soft coup was, yes, against him, against Donald Trump, but by extension, it was aimed directly at you and me, us, American voters, anybody who dared not to vote for Hillary Rodham Clinton. Here's what happened in a nutshell. The counterintelligence divisions of the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, the DIA, and the NSA were all arrayed in concert with the DNC, the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, a Russian oligarch by the name of Oleg Deripaska, Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, John McCain, Glenn Simpson, while working hand in hand with the American media maggots on a week by week, a day by day, an hour by hour hammering, an incessant hammering of the situation. And in concert with Barack Hussein Obama, with his administration, and the then Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, They were all working overtime with all possible available resources, millions and millions of dollars, in order to derail the candidacy of an individual for president, not just derail him, but further to smear him in such a way as to make him a pariah, a leper, and forevermore in the minds and eyes of the United States, in the world, someone that they never, ever want to have anything to do with again, and they were almost successful. This was spying on a political campaign. This was spying on a private citizen with the full weight of the U.S. government behind. Folks, this is something that a tin pot dictatorship does. This is something a totalitarian society does, not a republic, not a nation that abides by laws and operates under the rule of law. Then there was the dirty, bought and paid for dossier financed by the DNC, the FBI, Hillary Clinton, and that aforementioned Russian oligarch. You know, I can laugh about this now, and I like to play this, but you know what? Do you want real, honest-to-God Russian collusion? You want to mix in Jimmy the Leak? Yeah, let's mix in Jimmy the Leak, if we may.
Good morning. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton. What I want to do is tell you what we're recommending, but first, let me tell you what we found. 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains are top secret, 36 of those chains secret, and 8 contain confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
Everything I did was permitted. There was no law, no regulation.
Secretary Clinton should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of classified system, not even Gmail.
But first of all, nothing was marked classified.
To the contrary.
Nothing was marked classified.
There is evidence.
Nothing was marked classified.
Now let me tell you what we found.
Oh my God.
110 emails.
It was not the best choice.
52 email chains.
It was a mistake.
Have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains were top secret.
Wasn't the best choice.
6 of those chains
I said it was a mistake.
and 8 contained confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
With respect to our recommendation, this is going to be an unusual statement in at least a couple of ways. Although there is evidence, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. I know there will be intense public debate. I know there will be intense public debate. I know there will be intense public debate. What difference at this point does it make? 110 emails.
It wasn't the best choice.
52 email chains.
I made a mistake.
Have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains were top
was not a good choice.
6 of those chains
I said it was a mistake.
and 8 contained confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
And that was a good question. That was an excellent question. What difference does it make? Because the fuckery was afoot. The plot was drawn and even insurance formulated by FBI agents Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, just in case Hillary Clinton failed to win the presidency. The Russian investigation was just that insurance. There was no way, of course, this could happen. But, just in case, Page first entered the spotlight in December 2017 when it was revealed by the Justice Department Inspector General that she and then FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok exchanged numerous anti-Trump text messages. The two were involved in the FBI's initial counterintelligence investigation into Russian meddling and potential collusion with Trump campaign associates during the 2016 election, and later served on Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team. Isn't that special? Among their texts was one concerning the so-called insurance policy. During her interview with the Judiciary Committee in July 2018, Page was questioned at length about that text and essentially confirmed this referred to the Russian investigation while explaining that officials were proceeding with caution, concerned about the implications of the case while not wanting to go at total breakneck speed and risk burning sources they presumed Trump wouldn't be elected anyway. Further, she confirmed investigators only had a paucity of evidence at the start. As in, for those of you unfamiliar with paucity, that means not much crap at all. Then Representative Trey Gowdy kicked off that section of questioning by asking about the text sent from Stroke to Page in August 2016, which read, "I want to believe the path you threw out in Andy McCabe's office, that there's no way he gets elected," he, meaning Trump. "But I'm afraid we can't take the risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. The former FBI lawyer explained how the FBI was trying to strike a balance with the investigation into the Trump campaign, which agents called Crossfire Hurricane. They had a name for it. Maybe you didn't know. Crossfire Hurricane. So upon the opening of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, we had a number of discussions up through and including the director regularly, in which we were trying to find an answer to the question, right? Which is, there someone associated with the Trump campaign who's working with the Russians in order to obtain damaging information about Hillary Clinton, Page said. And given that it's August, we were very aware of the speed and sensitivity that we needed to operate under. Okay, you did catch that, correct? Okay, the director. Well, the director is none other than Jimmy the Leak Comey, who'd been kept in this loop. And there was a paucity of evidence. Lisa Page, and that even prior to the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel by assistant. This is so grand. This is so grand. Not very many people understand the linkage here. Even prior to the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel by Assistant Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, this is the same Rod Rosenstein who wrote a letter to President Trump outlining the various and numerous reasons in which to fire James Comey. They indicated there was no evidence to indicate Trump-Russia collusion. Now, this is from September of 2018. More than 9 months after the FBI opened its highly classified counterintelligence investigation into alleged coordination between the Trump campaign and Russia, FBI lawyer Lisa Page said investigators still couldn't say whether there was collusion, according to a transcript of Page's recent closed-door deposition. Imagine that. I think this represents that even as far as May 2017, we still couldn't answer that question, Page said. I cannot provide the specifics of a confidential interview. A guy by the name of Ratliff told Fox News when asked for comment, but I can say that Lisa Page left me with the impression, he was on the committee, by the way, Ratliff, based on her own words, that the lead investigator of the Russian collusion case, Peter Strzok, had found no evidence of collusion after nearly a year. This is important. May 2017 is a key month because FBI Director James Comey was fired by President Trump, and Mueller was designated special counsel. In August, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who appointed Mueller, wrote the still-secret scope memo, which no one could get their hands on, spelling out the boundaries for the special counsel investigation. Wouldn't you like to know what those are? Because apparently there weren't any. So why do you remember why it is that I call Comey Jimmy the Leak? Comey testified to the Senate Intelligence Committee in June of 2017 that he leaked memos that he wrote after conversations with Trump in order to force the appointment of a special counsel. This is a quote. I asked a friend of mine to share the content of a memo with a reporter. I didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. Comey testified June 8th of 2017. Then James Comey, by the way, denies being a leaker. Really. You can't write this. Comey instructed his friend Daniel Richman to give the Times, New York Times, a memo he wrote about the conversation he had with Trump on February 14, 2017. Comey claimed Trump asked him to shut down an investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Comey's ploy worked, of course, because Robert Mueller was appointed special counsel May 17th, 2017. So you got to ask yourself, in lieu of all this, what am I making reference to? So what happened? What occurred this past Sunday, March 24th?
Robert Mueller's report did not find any U.S. or Trump campaign officials knowingly conspire with Russia in the 2016 election. That's according to details released on Sunday.
So after a long look, there was no collusion with Russia. There was no obstruction and none whatsoever. And it was a complete and total exoneration. It's a shame that our country had to go through this.
A summary of the conclusions from the Attorney General, William Barr, was sent to congressional leaders and the media. It also says that Mueller did not exonerate the president of obstruction of justice or find that he committed a crime. The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee says he'll call Barr in to testify in the near future. The White House says the findings were a total and complete exoneration of the president.
So let's get back to that letter issued on Monday by Attorney General William Barr. Thank God he replaced Jeff Sessions, the do-nothing, limp-wristed, go-nowhere, limp dick, no-load Jeff Sessions. You can see I have great respect for Jeff Sessions. Oddly enough, I happen to have a copy of that right here in my little hands. The special counsel report as a supplement to the notification provided on Friday, March 22nd, 2019. I'm writing today to advise you of the principal conclusions reached by special counsel Robert Mueller and to inform you about the status of the initial review of the report he prepared. The special counsel report. On Friday, the special counsel submitted to me a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions he's reached as required by 28 CFR 600. This report is entitled Report on the Investigation into Russian Interference in the 2016 Presidential Election. Although my review is ongoing, I believe that it is in the public interest to describe the report and to summarize the principal conclusions reached by the special counsel and the results of his investigation, which he did in a 4-page report that I happen to have right here in front of my face. They thoroughly investigated this, and I'm going to see if I can get down to more of the salient portions. The second element involved the Russian government's efforts to conduct computer hacking operations designed to gather and disseminate information to influence the election. The special counsel found that Russian government actors successfully hacked into computers and obtained emails from persons affiliated with the Clinton campaign and Democrat Party organizations and publicly disseminated those materials through various intermediaries, including WikiLeaks. Stop just for a moment. Anybody remember John Podesta? Anybody remember John Podesta clicking on various links? Let's ask ourselves logically, damn us for being logical, how did the hackers happen to get into DNC servers when they tried the exact same thing into Republican servers and were not able to do so? The Republicans were a little smarter than the Democrats at the time. So the fault for doing this, for accessing, for giving this information essentially to the hackers, belongs in no small part to John Podesta, who clicked on a link in an email which allowed them to get into the DNC. The special counsel brought criminal charges against a number of Russian military officers for conspiring to hack into computers in the United States for purposes of influencing the election. Stop. I also need to tell you this, because you probably heard this crowed about mightily by CNN, MSNBC, etc. The people that were looked at and examined are in Russia, and they're not coming back. And to do anything with them is akin to a fart in the wind. Nothing is going to happen. Doesn't that have a great deal to do with all the other things that came about as a result of this? Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, Cohen, Carter Page, Roger Stone. What do we have involved in all of this? We have crimes of process. Remember this, crimes of process. Not one of these has any direct causal linkage to Trump-Russia collusion. And that's pretty much what this report that I'm showing you right now, if you're watching on Redcon or SHR Media, this report says the exact same damn thing. Obstruction of justice. The report's second part addresses a number of actions by the president, most of which have been the subject of public reporting, that the special counsel investigated as potentially raising obstruction of justice concerns. After making, quote, a thorough factual investigation into these matters, the special counsel considered whether to evaluate the conduct under department standards governing prosecution and declination decisions, but ultimately determined not to make a traditional prosecutorial judgment. The special counsel, therefore, did not draw a conclusion one way or the other. I was going to hit this later. I may as well hit it now. The special counsel did not draw a conclusion one way or the other as to whether the examined conduct constituted obstruction. This, then, is a recalcitrant conclusion. The job of Robert Mueller is to make a yay or a nay. And the reason he equivocated is politically involved. He says that these are difficult issues of law and fact concerning whether the president's actions and intent could be viewed as obstruction. The special counsel states that while this report, and this is the hook that I believe Robert Mueller purposely provided to the leftists, to the LDAM, to the leftists, the Democrats, and the American media maggots. This sentence is what they have hooked into from this entire report. The special counsel states that while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, well, it also does not exonerate him. Stop. I believe at this point Alan Dershowitz has something very salient and very important to say about this.
Gives us a little bit more insight into the Mueller investigation. So now let's bring in Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz to help us break it down. Professor, great to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. I'm probably going to be the only person on your show who is going to be very critical of Mueller. I thought it was a cop-out for him to say that there was not enough evidence to indict, but it's not an exoneration.
On obstruction.
And we're going to put a report out on obstruction. We're going to put a report out which says on the one hand, on the other hand. It sounds like a law school exam. That's not the job of the prosecutor. The job of the prosecutor is to decide yes or no. Make a
Thank you. Not to equivocate, to specifically state yes or no. It's the bottom of the hour. It's my show. We're going to continue.
Decision. And then if you say yes, you indict. If you say no, you shut up. You don't go on and say, no, we're not going to indict, but let me tell you all the evidence that might have led us to indict.
Does that sound like a situation and an individual that you heard similar to that in 2016? Does that sound remotely close?
Exactly what prosecutors shouldn't do. That's exactly what Comey did. How is this different than Comey?
Thank you.
Comey says, I'm not going to indict Hillary Clinton, but let me tell you, it was a close case. She had all of this stuff, and she was extremely careless, and she did terrible things, but we're not going to indict her. That's not what prosecutors do. So I challenge defenders of Comey, defenders of Mueller, to distinguish what Mueller did in relation to obstruction of justice to what Comey did in relation to her email and why she wasn't indicted on that. I don't see a big difference.
Yeah, it's interesting because we knew as soon as we saw this in the letter where the special counsel said, I'm not exonerating, I'm not also convicting or indicting the president or suggesting he committed a crime on this issue of obstruction of justice. So then he left it to the attorney general, who then with the legal team and with Rod Rosenstein and with others came to the conclusion that they did not see a factual basis for finding the president had obstructed justice.
Stop. Do you think this is purposeful? You have to ask that question. It's only logical that you ask that question. Was it purposeful that Robert Mueller equivocated in this report, according to the summary that was released on Sunday by Attorney General William Barr? I think the answer is not just yes, but extra crispy, fuck yeah, yes.
Interesting that Barr said it wasn't completely premised upon the point that they didn't find an underlying crime of any kind of collusion or any kind of trouble with Russia,
right,
but that did bear on the decision. He also said it wasn't about the constitutional question of whether or not you can indict a sitting president, but he said we looked at it and we thought that it was not worth pursuing. Now, Congressman Jerry Nadler, the chair of the House Judiciary, has tweeted quite a bit about this, and of course we knew that would be the point Democrats would jump to. He says Special Counsel Mueller worked for 22 months to determine the extent to which President Trump obstructed justice. Attorney General Barr took 2 days to tell the American people that while the president's not exonerated, there will be no action by DOJ. I would argue the letter goes farther than that because it says we didn't find that he actually committed acts that were obstruction of justice. What do you make now of this back and forth that we're going to have over that point?
Okay, stop right there. We know that we're going to have exactly that, back and forth. Those are all excellent questions. So can I be possibly so base as to suggest that Mueller lacked the political cojones to draw that distinction? And may I also suggest that Mueller essentially commied the situation? Yeah, I am using that name as a verb. Insofar as he drew clear and numerous points, but failed to do his damn job. Either there are events and situations worthy of prosecution, or there aren't. This was Mueller's job. He equivocated. You see, Robert Mueller and Jimmy the Leak aren't just friends. They're former FBI directors. You have to remember that, too, right? The special counsel's decision to describe the facts of his obstruction investigation without reaching any legal conclusion leaves it to the Attorney General to determine whether the conduct described in the report constitutes a crime. Over the course of the investigation, the special counsel's office engaged in discussions with certain department officials regarding many of the legal and factual matters at issue in the special counsel's obstruction investigation. In making this determination, we noted that the special counsel recognized that, quote, the evidence does not establish that the president was involved in an underlying crime related to Russian election interference. Now, this is what CNN and MSNBC and the rest are not going to emphasize. I already indicated what they have emphasized, what they will continue to emphasize, but they won't mention this. Quote, the evidence does not establish that the president was involved in an underlying crime related to Russian election interference, and that while not determinative, the absence of such evidence bears upon the president's intent with respect to obstruction. Generally speaking, to obtain and sustain an obstruction conviction, the government would need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a person acting with corrupt intent engaged in obstructive conduct with a sufficient nexus to a pending or a contemplated proceeding. In cataloging the president's actions, many of which took place in public view, the report identifies no actions that, in our judgment, constitute obstructive conduct. But you don't hear CNN mentioning that, do you? Not that part. You don't hear MSNBC mentioning that. Not that part. As I've previously stated, however, I am mindful of the public interest in this matter. For that reason, my goal and intent is to release as much of the special counsel's report as I can, consistent with applicable law, regulations, and departmental policies. The report continues. At the bottom it says, As I observed in my initial notification, the special counsel regulations provided that the Attorney General may determine that public release of notifications to your respective committees, quote, would be in the public interest. I have so determined, and I will disclose this letter to the public after delivering it to you, and he did. So the reactions, as you would expect, came pouring forth. Here's, I believe this is the Steve Hilton show. Here's Steve Hilton, Greg Jarrett, Sarah Carter, and Kayleigh McEnany talking about this particular show. Let's see if I can get this redone here. There we go. Hit it. Come on, Steve. I trust in you, dude. This is Technology 101. Steve, you're killing me here. Okay, we won't be able to listen to Steve, who was so willing to talk earlier, but now not so much. What does this also indicate to you? You have to ask a series of very important questions. We know a number of people were involved, but where did this go? And up what food chain? And ultimately, to whom?
Something simpler and bigger, and that is, what role did Barack Obama play? Because I am here to tell you it is impossible. There is no way the FBI would authorize an operation to spy on a political campaign without getting clearance from above. And that means taking it to the White House, and it means taking it to the president.
Thank you.
Not only that, but the wiretapping of Americans, the unmasking and the release of information from an unmasking on Michael Flynn, the biting on the dossier. There is a question about what did Barack Obama know, and when, and what did he authorize? And we need to know that. And the easiest way to do that is for reporters to do their jobs. They've got Brennan, they've got Clapper on TV shows. Have any reporters put these questions to them? Just 2 weeks ago, Brennan was predicting that indictments would take place in the final Mueller report based on what he knew, in part, as CIA director. If publicly the CIA director for Obama is saying there will be indictments, think about what privately the CIA director for Obama was telling the president about what he was observing. Yeah.
Facts in evidence. I got a question for you, folks. Is there anybody who believes that Barack Hussein Obama is stupid, ill-educated, unaware of politics, and was so incredibly laissez-faire that he was completely oblivious as to what occurred in his administration, particularly with regard to what became the number one target of the Democrats, Donald John Trump? Is that humanly possible? Here is ABC's Please Don't Treat Me Like Steve. Here is ABC's George Stephanopoulos talking with Representative Jim Jordan, who has had some excellent insights on this thing.
This weekend, but we're joined now by one of his top defenders in the House, the top Republican on the House Oversight Committee, Jim Jordan. Congressman, thank you for joining us this morning. You heard Chairman Schiff right there. He says the fact that there are no new indictments is not necessarily vindication for the president. You agree?
Well, we got to read the report, but what I do know is, to date, not one bit of evidence to show any type of coordination, collusion, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia to influence the election. And that was the charge, George, when this thing started almost 2 years ago. The Democrats were all saying that the president of the United States worked with a hostile foreign country to steal the election. And again, there's not been one bit of evidence to suggest that any of that happened.
Well, there's been a fair amount of evidence that 14 associates of Trump had over 100 contacts with the Russians, even though you're quite right, there was no charge of conspiracy. Does any of the information that's been revealed about those contacts, or about the fact that so many in the Trump world lied about those contacts, concern you?
Well, I mean, look.
Okay, stop. This is George Stephanopoulos equivocating himself once again, trying to minimize and saying, you know, this report is not all that important because look at the guys that we got caught in this trap.
Look, the central charge of the special counsel was to see if there was conspiracy, coordination, or collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia to impact the election. As I've said, that was the focus of the entire special counsel investigation.
Thank you.
We've not seen any of that. And again, remember, this is Bob Mueller. This was the guy the Democrats and the Republicans, everyone in town said, this is the guy we need for the job. He is the best person we can pick. He is right next to Jesus. He can almost walk on water. This is the guy, and he will have the definitive statement on that fundamental question. We'll see the report, but all indications are that there's not going to be any finding of any collusion whatsoever.
And we can't now trust Mueller because he didn't come out with what we're actually looking for, did he? No, he didn't. Huh. Damn.
How about the other concern that one of the other concerns that Chairman Schiff raised right there, the fact that President Trump might be compromised because he was pursuing that Trump Tower in Moscow during the campaign, not telling the truth about it, may still be pursuing it today.
Come on, George. I mean, look, here's what's happened. They don't think this Mueller report's going to be the bombshell they all anticipated it was going to be. So now they're launching all kinds of other charges, all kinds of other investigations. They bring in Michael Cohen a few weeks ago. This was their first big hearing, their first star witness, their first announced witness of the 116th Congress, a guy who's going to prison in 6 weeks for lying to Congress. They bring him in, and what does he do? He lies again. We think at least 7 times under oath in front of the Congress again.
So that's the crazy thing. All right. You've got a proven liar in Michael Cohen, yet the Democrats go out of the way to make sure that they invite a liar back in. So I guess what? He can lie again? I guess. So what happened is the American media maggots did indeed shit car parts following AG Barr's summary of the Mueller report. I told you I'd have something like this, didn't I? I bet you haven't heard this.
Russian collusion.
Trump-Russian sort of collusion.
Trump-Russian possible collusion. Trump-Russian metal collusion.
Trump-Russia
possible collusion.
Trump-Russian potentially collusion.
Trump-Russia possible collusion.
Trump-Russian possible collusion.
Trump-Russian collusion. Trump-Russian collusion. Trump-Russia possible collusion.
Russia hacked our election. Here comes a big change.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, Trump-Russian possible collusion. Russian collusion.
Trump-Russian possible collusion.
Trump-Russian possible collusion. Trump with the Russians. Collusion.
Collusion with the Russians. Trump-Russia possible collusion. Trump-Russia possible collusion. Prove collusion. Prove collusion.
Was there collusion?
Absolutely.
Trump-Russia possible collusion.
Trump-Russia possible collusion.
Trump-Russia possible collusion. Trump-Russia possible collusion. Trump-Russia possible collusion. Trump-Russia possible collusion. Trump-Russia potential collusion. Trump-Russia potential collusion.
And the Kremlin and be in collusion with Putin. And the Kremlin and be in collusion and Putin. And the Kremlin and be in collusion with Putin. And the Kremlin are very worried in collusion. This president in collusion with Putin. And the Kremlin and be in collusion. This president in collusion with Putin. And the Kremlin are very worried in collusion.
All 17 intelligence agencies.
17 agencies.
17 of our intelligence agencies have confirmed.
Of our intelligence agencies.
17 different United States intelligence agencies.
All 17 of them.
All 17 of them. So it's funny because somehow this cut now from Stephen Colbert, for whatever reason, this isn't aging all that well.
Here, there, and everywhere to the Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. I feel like it's Christmas morning. Because all year long, Robert Mueller and his team of legal elves have been busy in their workshop making all the indictments for all the bad little boys and girls. And the magical day we've been waiting for is finally here, 'cause it's the day of Paul Manafort's trial. You guys don't know that Christmas carol? He's being accused. Manafort
Yeah, because that was supremely important, wasn't it?
is being accused of a tax evasion, bank fraud.
We got him. We got him. We got this Trump by the tail. We have this Trump by his orange hair. We got him. We know we got him. Don't we?
But ultimately, he's really on trial for this picture. How does the defendant plead?
If it pleases the court.
Yeah.
Innocent.
Oh, yes. Today started with jury selection, or voir dire, which is French for I hope you enjoy toilet wine. Then, in the opening statements, prosecutors painted a picture of Manafort's extravagant spending.
Let's skip forward to this part.
Collusion.
There was no collusion at all. No collusion, no nothing. No collusion, no nothing. No collusion. No collusion. No collusion. No collusion.
He uses.
See, they think this is funny because Donald John Trump keeps telling people there's no collusion. There's nothing there. There's no there. Isn't that odd when Trump keeps getting proven correct time and again? I have a question. And the Democrats keep pushing me in this direction. I have a question. And I think it's an obvious one to me. And perhaps it's so incredibly obvious that no one seems to have thought of this. And why not? Dear Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Jerry Nadler, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, James Comey, et al. You all swear you have proof of President Trump colluding with Russia, or Russia having influenced our election for Trump against Clinton. I'm pretty sure, but the last time I checked, you guys all have index fingers. Or at least you have a staff who possess index fingers. Why is it that you didn't utilize said device, the Mark I Model 1 finger, and dial up the Mueller team? Something like this. Say, Bob, old buddy, I got some evidence for you. And then you give it to him. So if this evidence was there, what would keep you from proffering this evidence? You could have done this every day for the past 2 years. You could have dialed Robert Mueller, gotten his line, gotten somebody on his staff. You could have done that every day for the past 2 years. Yet either one of two things happened. Number one, you simply forgot to in the daily rush of your hectic lives. Or number two, you never had any fucking evidence in the first place. Me, I'm going with number two. We know the FBI was biased, and there are numerous facts in evidence that happen to be regarding that. And unfortunately, this is not going to play for me. This is one of those stupid Fox cuts. I may have to refresh all over again just to see if this thing will play for me, because some of it is actually pretty good, and I wish I could play some of these audio cuts. So I had to refresh this, and okay, here we go. Oh, I forgot to let you hear this. Here are the American media maggots in full-on continuous Trump derangement syndrome mode. Let's listen.
But we do know this. The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help.
Adam Schiff. Adam, where's your finger?
And that is pretty damning, whether it is proof beyond a reasonable doubt of conspiracy or not.
Let's see what happens.
Adam, where's your finger?
They're going to do the investigations, and I want the Democrats to be poised with all kinds of research and information to do the drilling down that I think is necessary to understand what Trump has done in connection with the Russians to undermine our democracy.
Maxine Waters, where's your finger?
Well, I think they're getting closer to knowing that the truth's going to come out, that there was activities with the Trump campaign in Russia and releasing those hacks and guiding them to the states and the localities where they came from. Some of that was Jared Kushner's
This is Representative Stephen Cohen.
responsibilities.
Democrat.
Some of it was Donald Jr.
Tennessee.
I think you're going to probably see indictments of both of those people.
Representative Cohen, where's your finger?
There are indictments in this president's future. They're coming. Whether they're after his presidency or during it, obviously the Department of Justice said cannot indict a sitting president.
Okay, Jerry Nadler, where's your finger?
We believe we may well have a criminal in the White House, and the next step is going to be the Trump family itself. I expect that there's a good likelihood Jared Kushner will be indicted for money laundering, and then we're going to have to see how far the Russian involvement goes. This is serious business. These people are undermining our democracy.
Right. Hey, Howard Dean, where's your finger? All of you guys, where's your finger? Like I said, we know the FBI was biased.
All right, get this. Newly revealed text messages between FBI's lovers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page show the couple were apparently involved in a scheme to leak stories to the press.
All right, so this happened in April of 2017, and Peter Strzok, he
But wait a minute, that runs in the FBI, because that's what James Comey did, too.
texted Page and said, I have literally just gone to find this phone to tell you I want to talk to you about media leak strategy with the DOJ before you go.
Is that legal? What does it mean for the FBI and the DOJ? Let's talk to Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. So, Judge, it sounds like what they were doing was, between the dossier and the leaks, they were going to the FISA people and saying, hey, look, we've got this evidence. We've got these news stories that essentially they were using as evidence.
So, by the way, you did know that, folks, right? You did know that part and parcel of the information implanted in an affidavit submitted by the FBI to the FISA court was a Yahoo News story. A Yahoo News story is considered evidence, I guess, if you're in the FBI.
Right before we came on air, Comey looked at me and said, FBI leaks, unbelievable. It's not unbelievable. The federal government is the best leaker in the world, and they do this when they want to target a person. Who do they target?
Yes.
Their boss, the President of the United States, by leaking information to the press and then using the press sources as a basis to get a FISA warrant.
This was in 2017.
Correct. I have been a critic of FISA for 40 years. It's been around since 1978. It lowers the standard for issuing a warrant.
And it's so secret.
Okay, let me tell you something that you may not know about FISA, because I have, in fact, worked for the FBI. Think of this. Think grand jury ham sandwich. And now I think you'll get the relationship between the FBI submitting various affidavits to a FISA court, or perhaps a series of FISA courts. The Mueller report summary is out. The leftist Democrats and the American media maggots, having been thwarted once again more by facts, are busy making sure they reset all the goalposts, changing the equations. They're reframing all the accusations, and they're generally, like I say, they're shitting car parts. The question is, what next? Okay, does the report itself get released?
Joining us now, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, a lot of this falls now on your shoulders. I see you laughing, but you know,
no, I've enjoyed listening.
Anything that you heard me say that's wrong?
No, I mean, you know, we're not going to try these people on cable television. We're going to put it through the rule of law, right? That's what you want.
Whoa,
That's what it.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I believe
okay.
in due process, the presumption of innocence.
Yes, absolutely, and you've been consistent on that. Here's what I want to find out: did they exonerate Clinton because they had a political bias? Did they ignore all the facts because if they indict her, they know she...
Wait a minute. Is this Lindsey Graham actually asking pertinent questions?
Can't beat Trump, and they wanted Trump to lose. Was the counterintelligence investigation a backdoor way of spying on Trump? There's real no evidence of working with Russia. They just used it as an excuse. Was the FISA warrant obtained unlawfully based on fraudulent documentation to surveil the campaign? Those are the things that I think you want to know about and I want to know about.
What will you do? Tell us the steps that you will take. You will play
Great question.
A very pivotal role here, sir.
First thing I want to do is find out why they got a warrant against Carter Page if the dossier was a bunch of garbage. What did you have beyond?
Yeah, by the way, did you ever hear Carter Page going to prison, going away? He's in the can.
On the dossier, why didn't you listen?
No.
Listen to Bruce Orr. At the end of the day, how could you use this document that's unverified to this day to get a warrant on 4 different occasions? I want to find out all about that. I want to know if the email investigation was basically dropped because they had a political bias. I want to know if the counterintelligence investigation, why didn't you warn Trump that you thought the Russians were trying to infiltrate his campaign?
Stop.
Why didn't you tell him what you told him?
Stop right there. That's an excellent question. Guess who's going to address that in a few minutes?
Hey, Feinstein.
Right.
Well, so the reason I think they didn't tell him about the Russians infiltrating his campaign is that they wanted to infiltrate his campaign, not the Russians.
Thank you.
All right, Senator, I know that you have...
Let's stop right there. Further, okay, why not release just about all the documents relevant to the case? President Trump has the ability as president to declassify a massive host of documents. Let me ask you this. For example, why can't we see just what it was, as Lindsey Graham asks, why can't we see what it was that the FBI provided to the FISA courts in order to acquire their searches of Trump, the Tower, and his associates? One thought is this, and I think it's the thought, and it's a damning one. And it's a massive reason why I believe that leftists and Democrats want no further documents uncovered. If you work in the law, you remember this, and in your training and instruction, you'll probably remember. Does anyone understand the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine? It goes like this. If, for example, an investigation is conducted and it's found that a FISA judge signed off on an affidavit packed with specious, unverified information, such as the salacious, dirty dossier, up to and including outright falsehoods, everything in terms of evidence subsequently procured is illegal, and therefore it's inadmissible in court. Now, what that would mean, if you do the logical extension like BZ says, the BZ logical extension is this. That means convictions and indictments on, just for a start, let's say, I'm sure I'm going to leave somebody out, Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, Cohen et al., those would have to be vacated. One final point, something I've always wondered. Where was the benefit of the doubt for Donald Trump? Where was it? Did it exist? As in, something like this. I think it's like Napolitano said. It's like this, okay? Mr. Trump, I'm Agent Lee from the FBI, and we have information to indicate that your campaign may have been subject to some kind of infiltration attempt by foreign powers, to possibly include the Russians. Would you work with us to try to get to the bottom of this? You know, like what happened to California Senator Dianne Feinstein when it was discovered that she had a Chinese operative as her driver and personal attaché for 10 years in her office with access to highly sensitive documents and information. The FBI managed to afford Senator Dianne Feinstein the benefit of the doubt. I covered this, and I wrote about this back in August of 2018 last year. Here's an article. Feinstein was mortified by the FBI allegation that a staffer was a spy for China. U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein fired a staffer a few years back who was allegedly part of an effort to spy and pass on political intelligence to the Chinese government. Imagine that. The FBI informed Feinstein, then chairwoman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, still is, by the way, about 5 years ago that the staffer and allegations that the staffer was a spy. The source who confirmed the incident to the San Francisco Chronicle said, Dianne was mortified upon learning about this. Okay, Well, my guess would be certainly Donald Trump would have been mortified to learn that something like that happened on his campaign as well. But let's ask ourselves a fundamental question. Could it be remotely possible that the Chinese determined to insert an agent directly into Feinstein's vehicle because she was the chair, like I said, of the Senate Committee on Intelligence, a committee on which she still sits? That's a suspected spy served as the lawmaker's driver in California, but took on other roles as well, including helping her out in her San Francisco office and being Feinstein's liaison to the Asian American community in the state. He attended Chinese consulate events on behalf of the senator. Stop. What's a wonderful place and locale to hand over information that you may have cribbed from Senator Dianne Feinstein's office? That's right, Chinese consulate events. A former official said that the spy's handler probably got an award back in China for his efforts to penetrate Feinstein's office and pass on intelligence. Okay, taxpayer money paid this Chinese Mueller a spy. Your money, my money. First question I got to think of is, did this guy get a pension? How would we know? Wouldn't it behoove the Democrats to keep such a cock-up quiet? Sure it would. What a great job. Steal secrets, spy on the Guelo, then take a cushy retirement. And let's break this down as well. The suspected spy served as the lawmaker's driver, took other roles. He was a driver and much more. Let's be serious. After her husband, Dianne Feinstein's husband, Richard Bloom, he has close associations with China. And her comfort factor in dealing with the same, would it not be logical that the amount of time spent with her and this guy day by day, week by week, year after year, would result in her guard being let down just a little bit? And this guy by the name of Russell Lowe wasn't just her driver. Oh, that's right. He was her office manager as well. And you do know that Dianne Feinstein's ties to China, roll with me on this. I'm going somewhere with this, so roll with me on this if you would. Senator Dianne Feinstein's ties to China go way deeper than just some office spy. She's always had a warm relationship with, and she's been an active advocate for communist China, going back decades, and involving millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. As media intelligence agency and political scrutiny of foreign meddling is seemingly at its apex, a story with big national security implications involving a high-ranking senator with access to America's most sensitive intelligence information, he's been hiding in plain sight. So they have to ask themselves, did the senator expose herself to potential blackmail or the public to danger through leakage of sensitive, highly classified information? Is firing really the proper punishment for providing political intelligence to a foreign power? Okay, by now I think you get my point. The FBI decided to do Senator Dianne Feinstein a solid by notifying her and her staff of the potential threat from within due to this guy Lowe. They told her something similar to, "We think you have a Chinese spy problem." That's exactly what the FBI did not do for the Donald Trump campaign. They could have taken the staff and then candidate nominee Donald Trump aside, and they could have said something similar to, "Just thought you should know. We think you have something of a Russian problem," kind of like Dianne Feinstein. But no. Okay, so the next logical question, perhaps the final logical question you have to ask yourself is, what was the difference? Then I found out you have to ask yourself another question, and answered, Oh, yeah. Wasn't Robert Mueller the FBI director during that time when the spy in Feinstein's office was exposed in 2013, early 2013? Why, yes, he was. Bob Mueller was FBI director at that time. Comey wasn't appointed until September of 2013. So what's the difference in these two scenarios? The difference is Donald John Trump. This was a soft coup against President Trump. By dint of him, that means it was a soft coup and a continuing coup against the American citizens and American voters. This story is still unfolding, and it's going to continue to unfold. But wait. There's more.
Monsieur has unlocked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, and on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Thanks to Redcon One Media for simulcasting my show. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, the Boeing Company, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going, and of course Pratt & Whitney Engines. Thrust, you can trust. Tiaras by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be concerting in less than an hour. Thank you ever so kindly for listening live. Thanks ever so kindly to Ken McCLENTON of TECN. Thanks to you for being in chat. Thanks for listening in podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thanks for taking out of your busy day or night in order to do so. Tomorrow, Sackheads Against Tyranny. It's a Shat Show. Folks, God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.